program is brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
There's a proverb in Setswana that says, Khumo mathare thothorega, which literally translates to, wealth will fall off, just like the leaves of a tree. This means that just like you take care of a tree to keep it alive, you need to do the same with your wealth. We have heard of stories where children were left with fortunes by their parents, but squandered the inheritance in a matter of years, if not a few months. These stories are usually characterized by lavish parties, luxury travel, fine dining, expensive shopping sprees, and splurging on unnecessary fancy cars. One or two people would try to advise the beneficiaries on the importance of properly managing their newly inherited wealth, but words always fall on deaf ears. Before long, these children are left destitute, to a point where sometimes they're homeless, simply because they failed to take care of their inheritance. The truth is, this is not very uncommon. A lot of people find themselves with money and all other assets, but have no idea on how to manage them. The issue is not always a lack of maturity, but rather a case of lacking the right mindset and attitude to manage wealth. To discuss, certified financial planner at SCI Wealth, James Fern, is on First Issues to talk about the kind of mindset needed to manage and maintain wealth, as advised by years of working in asset and wealth management.
I think wealthy people value money more, whereas the rich have kind of got this throwaway culture. It's all about gratuitous spending and conspicuous consumption. You know, they drive flashy cars. So if a guy turns up outside my office in a really flashy car, he's probably not going to be a client of mine because he's rich. Whereas if somebody turns up in a more humble car, you know, perhaps a Camry or something like that, then he's more likely to become a client because he's careful with his money and he's got a wealthy mindset.
So how does a person start thinking about developing this mindset of creating wealth?
How do you start out? I think the first thing to realize is that so much of our life is faked. When we look at other people, we are trying to kind of value them on the clothes that they wear, on the way that they dress, on the way that they have their hair done, on the cell phone that they carry, on the car that they drive, or perhaps on the house that they live in. Yeah? And a lot of that can be faked through debt. Yeah? So we can fake looking rich. It's difficult to fake wealthy. Wealthy takes time. You have to live within your means. You have to think to yourself, I am not going to make my future self poorer for the lifestyle of today. Yeah? And you do saving for yourself to start with. You save money every month. You start investing that money. And you gradually get wealthier. And then you get to the point where your assets can start to provide income for you. And then it's kind of a snowball effect. Yeah? An ongoing effect of I'm starting to get wealthier. It becomes slightly easier once you've got into that habit.
But how soon should one start thinking about ways of creating wealth for themselves, and what kind of financial vehicles and tools should they look into?
So how soon? You know the answer. Yeah? If you're thinking about it and you're not doing anything about it, what's the point? Yeah? So you need to think about it now. You need to make the change now. Because if you've been in the habit for your entire life of spending money that you don't have, then you're gradually making your future self poorer and poorer and poorer. To become wealthier, you need to make your future self richer and richer and richer, wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. So you need to change the mindset now and stop looking at other people who are faking their wealth. Yeah? Look at yourself, take a long, hard look, and start with a pen and paper. Start writing down what you're worth, perhaps, what assets you have. Are your debts more than your assets? Well, why should we be in negative wealth? That doesn't make sense. So what am I going to change about my lifestyle now? What am I going to do differently going forwards so that when I do the same exercise in a year's time, I'm going to have positive assets. I'm going to be worth more than my debts. You write it down. This isn't a matter of just thinking about it, dreaming about it, last thing at night. Yeah, you sit down with some quiet time, get a piece of paper, and you start writing down, right, how do I feel about my money? Yeah? Am I living within my means? Am I saving something month by month by month? Yeah? Or am I going further into debt and getting poorer and poorer and poorer every month?
Well, we've heard of young adults squandering all of their inherited wealth and basically flushing away years of hard work by their parents to accumulate that wealth. And maybe in your line of work, you've heard of the same. So in your experience, how proactive are parents in instilling this kind of mindset, the mindset of wealth in their children to avoid this kind of scenario from happening?
Poorer parents are better at this than wealthier parents. Kids who grow up with wealthy parents quite often think that life is easy. Yeah? We have a saying, in all the world's cultures, there's the same saying. And it says, from rags to riches to rags in 3 generations. So the first generation grows the wealth. The second generation maintains the wealth. The third generation, the grandchildren, they blow it all. From rags to rags in 3 generations. The way that wealthy people get around this is they build their assets, they do sensible things with those assets, which involve wills and trusts, in order to make sure that the young children don't get their hands on assets. So it's really, really important when you've got beneficiaries and the people who are dependent on you, and you've got assets, you have to put a will in place. Now, whether that will also involves having a trust is up to you and your financial planner. So we'd say come in and have a chat to one of our financial planners and talk this situation through. Yeah? But generally, if you are frugal with money, so if you as a parent are saving 10% of your money every month without fail, you'll teach your children that they should do the same thing. Yeah? But it is something that needs to be taught. And children who grow up without that guidance don't have that impetus to start saying on day one of starting work, I'm going to earn 2,000 pula at the end of the month, and I'm going to save 200 of it. And that's the first step, is to start paying yourself first, saving first, the moment you get paid.
Still on scenarios, there's been a prevalence of, retirees being asset rich but cash poor. And this is brought on by them accumulating so many assets. We have, instances of a lot of land, they have farms, they have, there's many properties, but no liquid, because when they started in their youth, they were trying to accumulate wealth. What do you think is the solution to this, so that upcoming younger people, the youth of today that's trying to do the same, avoids making the same mistake?
So there are 2 things that you touched on there. The first is that there's a debate as to what retirement means. Yeah? So for an employee, they're saying, well, I'm going to retire at 55. But they don't really mean that I'm going to retire. They're not going to stop doing anything. What they mean is I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to take my pension fund from my employer, if they have one in their employer, and I'm then going to try and go into business. Okay. And people screw up massively. They take their entire life savings and they put it into a business, but they're 55 years old, and a business can be outcompeted. If you open up a butchery and I open up a butchery next door, and I'm younger, stronger, willing to work more hours, my butchery will succeed over yours. Yeah? So 55 is not an ideal time to start a business. So planning retirement, planning for old age is something that you need to start quite early, thinking about how you're going to do this. Yeah? What does retirement mean to you? The second thing that I'd like to sort of bring you up on there is, what's an asset? So an asset is something that either grows in value or provides you with an income. Now, Botswana have these free plots that they've been given for mahala. What's the value? If something's given to you for nothing, and the next person can get something almost identical for nothing, there's not a lot of value in that. Now, you can debate it with me, if you were given a plot in the CBD, yeah, okay, you're a wealthy person. Yeah. But generally, just acquiring little plots around the place is not a way to become wealthy, because a plot, difficult to sell, doesn't provide you with any income whatsoever. So you need to find a way to turn what you think is an asset into an actual asset. If you can develop that plot, and you can put a property on it, and you can rent that property out, and that property pays you rental income, asset, fantastic. If you can acquire that plot and sell it to somebody else, yeah, asset. But if it just sits there for free with a small fence around it and a small structure, a kraal, that's not an asset, I'm sorry to say. Yeah? So the retirement issue, yeah, is a thorny one. How do you provide passive income for yourself when you're old? And the reason it's most important is that we need to break the generational cycle. So we say, the most important gift you can give your grandchildren is to be financially independent in your old age. Because so many of our elderly people are dependent on their children. And that means that their children can't invest as much money in the grandchildren. Yeah? So you need to sort out your retirement so that your grandchildren can be wealthy.
So, James, what would you say is the key takeaway, or a key takeaway from our conversation, our discussion today around wealth?
Take it seriously. Yeah? We all work hard for our money. Yeah? So many of us don't have any clue where it goes. We spend it willy-nilly. We work really, really hard for it. We spend 8 hours of every day working, maybe more, and then we kind of squander it. So take it seriously. Pay yourself first. Start with 10%. Set up a savings account, set up a stop order, 10% of your money into that savings account every month. That's a start. Now you're moving in the right direction. Get rid of your debts, start making your future self wealthier.